Found the original owner using this car as a tractor. It was caked in mud. I remember him telling me just how filthy this car was. Hey, I'm Sean Mathis, founder of Mathis Automotive Museum. And I know a lot of people ask me all the time to do these videos where we showcase cars that are in the museum. And I can't emphasize enough how difficult it is for me to actually do this. But I'm going to try. And so the first one I wanted to try to do this for is going to be our 1935 Mathis. This car is very special for a few different reasons. One, this is the museum's car. I actually raised funds specifically with the museum, and Miles Through Time was able to purchase this car from the second owner of this car's life. The first owner was a farmer in France, and the second owner was serving in the U.S. Air Force in the French Alps, and he found the original owner using this car as a tractor. It was caked in mud. I remember him telling me just how filthy this car was, but he purchased it from the original owner, and he used it to drive on and off base in France between 1957 and 1959. In 1959, he had this car shipped over to the States. It was actually strapped down on the boat, and it went over these side lights, the straps over the car, and it actually crushed these side lights. So he had to have those remade, which was obviously very difficult. The other thing about this car is this is a 1935 Mathis EMY4S. This is one of two Mathises that are in the country that I'm aware of. The only other Mathis is a three-wheel concept car that is sitting at the Tampa Bay Automobile Museum. That is actually the first car, or the first Mathis that I had ever seen was at the Tampa Bay Automobile Museum. Before that, I had no idea that Mathis even made cars. And once I discovered that, I was on a hunt to try to find one. And the only reason I knew about this one was because of Tampa Bay Automobile Museum. So the guy that brought this car to the States actually snail mailed a packet to the Tampa Bay Automobile Museum trying to see if they would be interested in buying this car from him. They weren't interested because they already had one and they specialize in other types of cars where this didn't really fit what they needed. However, I was talking to them at a concourse, a Cigar City concourse, and I'm telling them, hey, I'm looking for this car if you ever find one. And they just happened to say, hey, this guy just mailed us this packet trying to sell us his. So they sent the packet to me. I reached out to the guy that owned the car and told him, hey, I'm with Miles Through Time. I'd like to come see your car. I'd like to see if we can get it on display in the museum. And so I drove down to Melbourne, Florida, and met the owner, saw the car, fell in love with it, tried to see if he would donate it to the museum because the museum doesn't have the ability to purchase cars. I personally didn't have the ability to purchase this car, especially for it to just then sit in the museum. But I told him, I'm going to see what I can do. I'm going to try to raise some funds for this car, and it belongs with me at Miles Through Time. I obviously have the last name Mathis. The year that he brought it to the States was the year that my grandpa's Cadillac is. And there's all kinds of connections. I was like, this is meant to be at Miles Through Time. And so I came back up to Georgia. It took about a month, and I had raised enough funds and was able to go back down to Melbourne and purchase this car. What's neat is the owner actually had taken this car out to a car show in between that time where I had met him and came back to get the car. And at that event, this car it could have been sold. He had many offers and another offer to go to another automotive museum. However, he held out for me because I went and talked to him, and he took a lot of pleasure in denying the car to this other museum, which I find hilarious, because he had apparently tried to sell it to that same museum years ago, and they weren't interested at all at that time. And now all of a sudden, the new person at that museum was very interested in this car, and he got to deny him simply because I went down there and met him a month earlier. I got it back, and I mean, I brought it back to Georgia. This car runs, drives. It's beautiful. It's got a brand new top. This paint color is original paint colors, is my understanding. However, the paint job is actually a rattle can paint job that he did decades ago at this point. And if you look at the car, I mean, it almost looks like a chop top. It's a very neat looking car. It also looks European. It also looks very similar to a Ford. However, the bumper, the grill, all these parts that may look very similar to a Ford, they wouldn't fit because this is metric and not standard size. So none of the holes would actually match up. Now, this particular car, it has a 4-cylinder, 35 horsepower engine in it. It's a 1,525 cc motor. Obviously, by no means is this a fast car, but that's not what it's about. This is a cool car. It's pretty neat that we get to say this is the only one in the country. If you know of another Mathis, I definitely want to know. If you know of an EMY4S Mathis, I definitely want to know about that car. Every once in a while, you see them pop up in Europe, and I thought that's what I was going to have to do, is find one in Europe and figure out how to get it over here. And luckily, I found one just a little bit of ways in Melbourne, Florida, and was able to bring it here. And now this is one of our most special cars on display at the museum. So definitely come check this thing out. Because it is the museum's car, the intention is to be able to use this at various concourse events or big events. Just getting it out there and being able to do that is one of the next things we got to work on being able to do. But it's definitely neat, so come check it out.